Hey, all you Splinterheads, welcome back. Bronze Dragon here saying thanks for dropping by. I do appreciate your time. Right up front, I want to say that my most recent Saturday morning stand-up this past Saturday was a great success. Thanks for everybody dropping by and celebrating my 25th consecutive live stream. With that said, if you dropped by, then you got in on some Riftwatcher pack giveaways. It was a fun time. I gave away some packs, and I'm leaving this note here because I do have one ongoing beta pack giveaway, which will be given away this Saturday. Looking at the calendar, that will be the 9th of September. And if you're watching this video, you can still get in on that drawing if you wish. Okay, all you have to do is go to the replay of that last live stream, which I will leave the link in the show notes, and watch the live stream, like, subscribe, and in the comments, leave your in-game name, your Hive blockchain name, as well as an idea of what you would like to see out of this channel. What would you like to see me cover going forward? It's pretty simple, straightforward. Then stop by on Saturday and see who wins the beta pack. Okay, with that said, the astute amongst you who may have seen a video I dropped last night will notice that I pulled that video off this morning. Thanks goes out to Gathering the Magic for pointing out a critical error that I made that made it it was a strong enough error that I felt I should have pulled the video off. Not that any of my card choices I made in the video will be different, but the numbers would have been skewed differently. Okay, so the video is referencing a comment or a comment made by a subscriber, Weird Mix Shorts 9335, which has a good channel himself. He covers various gaming things himself, not really Splinterlands related, but other things such as Roblox. But he asked. He said he would like to see me talk more about good cards for starting players. Okay, so this takes me back. I have in the past really concentrated. I've kind of gotten away from it since land has been my strongest focus lately. But in the early days of my show, and I was building my hands and building my decks, I was really concentrating on getting the best value cards that I could get for my money, right? So I saw a lot of shows where basically the way they went about it was just threw a ton of money at it, just bought the best cards. I looked at it and like, I can't afford to throw thousands and thousands of dollars of cards at the cards at that point, you know. Now, meanwhile, 2.5 years later, if I added everything up, I would have thousands and thousands of dollars, but invested. But that wasn't my point. So I'm going to go back, and this episode is going to be aimed at the people who are just starting and looking for good cards to start their collection out for a good value. Okay, so we all know that you can also rent cards, but the cards I'm going to be talking about today are strong buy situations because, first of all, they're cheap. They're about the cheapest cards you're going to find available. And just to get started, the way I'm going to approach this is I am going to be talking about primarily Chaos Legion and Riftwatchers and the associated rewards cards. Okay, and the reason why I'm doing that is because going in with these two sets will allow new players to have cards available in Modern for a longer period of time. Because we're coming up in the fall here, we've been told that the new set Rebellion may take place, may be dropped, may not, who knows, you know how that goes. But they've said that it may be dropped before the end of the year. Now, when that happens, then Untamed will be moving out of the Modern set, and some of the Untamed rewards cards, the earlier ones, will be moving out as well. So with that said, then Rebellion will replace that, and the newer players will probably have to come up to speed on Rebellion. But having a good, solid base of the cards that exist now within Chaos Legion and to a lesser extent Riftwatchers. Not that I'm saying Riftwatchers cards are bad choices. I'm saying that largely they're about 5 to in some cases 10 times the cost of Chaos Legion. Now, if you're new to the game, Chaos Legion represents a very good value because it was printed in huge numbers. So there's a lot of cards out there. But that's good for players. That's good for new players, and that's good for people who are building up their deck currently. And that's the way I'm going to approach that. Okay, with that said, let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to present this information. It's going to be largely the same information I presented last night whenever I put out the faulty video, but it's going to be presented in a different way. So for new players, what I'm going to dive into is I'm going to go into the market, and we are already up here, but I will show you what I selected. So if you go into under the Chaos Legion heading and just select Chaos, Core, Reward, Promo, and Rift Watchers. And this is going to give you the cards that I am talking about. And we're going to go through here splinter by splinter. I'm going to pick out my top 5. Now, largely, not that what I'm going by is how often I play it, how often I see others play it, and how often I see my bot, which is the Archmage, play it and make use of these cards. So we're starting out with commons during this episode. Going forward, I'm going to also make a video on rares and then epics and legendaries. Okay, so epics and legendaries may be just one episode in and of itself, but I'm trying to speed this, make this episode not so long. So I'm just going to cover commons. I'm going to try to cover all the splinters to give you a good feel, what I think is a good base for somebody coming into this game. And I feel these are strong buy opportunities right now. Not that this is from a play perspective, not from an investment perspective. Okay. Now, the second thing I'm going to talk about is when you go in to buy the cards, you're better off buying multiple BCX that have already been combined. In most cases, you'll save a little bit of money versus buying one BCX each and then combining them to whatever level you want. Now, the second thing added on to that is the 2 levels we're going to be talking about is level 3 and level 5. Okay, a level 3 common represents the maximum level that a level 2 summoner can cast. And a level 2 summoner is the maximum level summoner that you can use in bronze. Okay, so we're talking about level 3 cards, commons, for use in bronze. And the reason why I'm talking about that is if you go in and want to play strongly in bronze or silver at level 3 or level 5 for your commons, you're going to want those cards maxed out. And these lower cost cards are going to be the cheapest available. Okay, so it gives a good base for your play. Okay, so in fire, I'm going to start off, I'm just going to go from left to right in no particular order. I'm going with Lava Spider. I'm going with Radiated Scorcher, Radiated Brute, Scavo Chemist, and Antoid Platoon. Okay, now you'll see a running theme amongst all the splinters. In most cases, you're going to have a decent tank. You're going to have a secondary tank that usually has reach. You're going to have a range monster, and then you're going to have a couple others, usually a buffing monster. So in this case, we have a strong low mana tank, Antoid Platoon. We have a strong secondary character that sits in that second slot with reach, meaning that he can go ahead and hit the tank on the other team. We have a range in Lava Spider. We have Radiated Scorcher, which kind of is another tank, a secondary tank. Also, you could fit in the in-between slots if you're playing the game type where melee can hit from any position. And you have Scavo Chemist, and he is a buffer / debuffer. Okay, so he cleanses, takes off debuffs off of your tank. Okay, so those are my picks for fire: Lava Spider, Radiated Scorcher, Radiated Brute, Scavo Chemist, and Antoid Platoon. And like I said, depending upon whether you want to shoot for bronze or silver, you're going to want to either buy level 3 or level 5. And most of these, as you can see, are just in multiples of a cent each, 1 to 2 cents each. The most expensive here is, well, that's 2 cents. People may call me out on the Ash Mirage and say, is that a strong card? Yes, it is. However, look at the cost of it, 61 cents or more per BCX. That's the reason it didn't make my list. Okay, I'm trying to stick with just the top 5 that I would go with. Okay, now another thing I will say is if you're going in and you're starting out playing in bronze, really look at your budget and consider, can I afford to go ahead and build out my deck for playing in silver? Because my guess is that if you get into bronze and you like playing bronze, you're going to wish you can, you're going to wish that you prepared for making it into silver because you're going to want to make it into silver as soon as you can. Now, that's not for everybody. I know some people are having fun playing in bronze now, but whenever I got into bronze, and it's been a while, but I just couldn't wait to make it into silver because everything, everything you gather off the game increases as you go up in leagues. Okay, so that's fire. Let's move on to water. Okay, same situation. I'm going to go in with Pelacor Bandit. Easily one of my favorite rewards cards, one of my favorite cards down pat. This can fit in a hand, almost any hand. You're not usually going to use it in a higher mana match, but any low to medium mana matches, great card. Secondary, Kulu Swim Hunter. Not an awesome card, but a decently strong range card. Cruel Cephalopod, often overlooked, great card for extremely low mana matches where you need a tank. Okay. I'm thinking level 12 to 14 mana matches. I've seen myself as well as other players and my Archmage bot pick this on a regular basis. Now, I'm going to round this out with Flying Squid and Deep Lurker. Okay, Flying Squid and Deep Lurker, even though they're commons, are two of the most commonly played water cards there are now in Modern. Okay, and they go strongly with a third card, which is a rare, which we'll talk about tomorrow night, Demon Shark. But very good cards. Once again, we have a low mana tank. We have a range, or not really a range. We have a range. What am I talking about? This is a sneak, which can sit in one of the last several slots of your team and hit the last unit in your enemy's team. Okay, we don't have a tank because the tank that's usually used with water in this setup is a rare, like I said. Now, this is a lower mana tank, but Deep Lurker also can sit in the last, like slot 3, 4, 5, and hit. And then Flying Squid sits in that secondary position and can hit your opponent's tank with reach. So very strong lineup, and the water summoner in Chaos Legion is very strong as far as melee goes. So we'll talk about that tomorrow because the standard Chaos Summoners are rare. So, okay. So let's go on to Earth. Now, with Earth, and let's go back to water just for a minute. You may ask yourself, why did I not pick the Rift Watchers? Once again, the prices are a little bit more, and I think the other cards represent a little bit stronger value. In the show notes, leave me a note if you really have a good plan for Lamel Refugee or Coastal Nymph, as far as, do you think it's worth it? Would you take those over one of my other picks? Okay, let's go back to Earth. Now, Earth, I'm going to start off with the most expensive one first. Okay, it's Goblin Psychic. This is a healer, fits very strongly into Earth's motif for Chaos Legion. Chaos Legion Summoner gives you +1 to magic. Fits very well into, it fits into almost any green Earth hand there is, due to the fact that it is a healer. In most cases, a healer is going to help your lineup. I guess there are some specific cases where you wouldn't want that, but Earth healer is going to strengthen your lineup. Now, the secondary pick I'm going to have here is Pelacor Mercenary. You're going to see this name Pelacor several times. Several of the splinters had Pelacor. They're all flying, as far as I know, and they all represent. They were printed in very high numbers, so they're still very cheap. Okay, so the Pelacor Mercenary makes it a pretty decent mid-level tank. Okay, he's got flying, which makes it harder for you to, for your opponent to hit him. So that's why that's there. Now, the second thing I will pick is, or the third thing I guess it is, will be Hill Giant. Nice, low level, low mana tank to fit in there. The third one will be fourth one. I mean, I don't know why I keep misnumbering. The fourth one will be Venari Scout. He has opportunity. Sit back in that third or fourth slot and bring the heat, right? And the last one I will have to go with, which is like a surprise pick for me, is the Vampire Bat. Okay, The Vampire Bat, as it levels up, you can't quite get to level 6 within silver. Once you cross over into gold, you can pick that up. But it does have flying, which has a 25% bonus chance of evading. And then once you cross over into gold and you can boost that up to level 6, it has a 25% higher chance of evading again. So all that means is that whenever you go ahead and you slot that into either your tank slot or into your last slot to kind of guard the back of your team, it's going to be hard to hit that Vampire Bat. Okay. The only reason I do like Bramble Pixie in the second slot, but the only reason I didn't go with that is it's significantly more expensive, and I don't think the value is there. Now, as you build your deck, you may consider it. It is a good card to sit in that secondary position, especially in reverse speed, because I think its main fault is it's slow. And at level 6, once you cross over into gold, it picks up healing. Very nice to have. You're going to notice a lot of similarities amongst really common popular tanks have heal. Okay, so that's my picks for Earth. Let's move on and let's go to Death next. Okay, now my picks for Death. My surprise pick here, and I'm going to start with the most expensive one because it's one of the newer ones. I feel it's worth the money if you don't have any large, strong Death tanks. Okay, and that's Night Ghoul. Okay, so it's significantly more expensive than the others, but it does present you with a nice, big, beefy tank who has Taunt. And if you're not familiar, Taunt makes all the enemy mobs or all the enemy monsters attack it. Okay, which means that basically you can set up your hand and dictate what the enemy is largely going to attack. Now, there are ways to get around this from the enemy's standpoint, but it's a good, solid card, and I think it's worth buying if you're just coming into the game. I still think it's worth buying even if you're in the game, but from a beginner's standpoint, good, solid tank. Now, the second one I'm going to point out is Silent Shavi. Okay, once again, you'll see a lot of these cards I pick. I really like the sneak power. Okay, so this targets the last unit on the enemy. Okay, a common way I set up my hands is I may put 2 or 3 sneaks in a hand. Right, 2 or 3 monsters with sneak. They will mow through your opponent's hand team from the back to the front. So that's the power there. So Silent Shavi, on the more expensive side, but still not bad compared to some of the other cards. Okay. The next one I'm going to talk about is Riftwing. Now, this is once again something that is flying and is harder to hit. It doesn't have an attack right off, but there are newer rewards cards that if you stack this with them, near them, or in between them, it could gain an attack. But this, the surprise here, well, it's not a surprise, but the kind of the sleeper power here that it has is Scavenger. A lot of people who are just starting out, and frankly, I'm guilty of it too. I didn't use Scavenger up until the last few months, and I kind of learned the hard way that power. So what it does is it gains 1 max health for each time any unit dies. Their units, your units, this monster is one that's going to keep getting more health. Now, where you stack it, likely towards the back, right? Either the back or the second to the last, and stacking it in between a card that gives it an attack. By the time it gets up front, bam, so you got a nice beefy tank. Okay, following that up with Shadow Snitch. Love Shadow Snitch. He sits you in your secondary position there with Reach. Once again, very similar to the other hands or other splinters, most of them having a Reach monster. And I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 finish that up with the Pellicore Deceiver. Once again, another Pellicore, has flying, strong tank or in the last position. And once again, this is one at gold level. When you finally reach gold, if you do, when you beef him up to level 6, gets backfire, which makes any unit that misses on him take 2 melee damage. Okay, so good strong cards on the cheap side. Good way to build your deck from the bottom up. Now, once again, some of the other Rift Watchers cards. You may ask me, well, Everhungry Skull, pretty decent card, except for against magic. You'll notice he has a nice beefy shield, but he has only 1 health. Magic bypasses that shield. Okay, so if you're sure your opponent, if you have a good idea your opponent's not going to play Magic, might be a good tank to play. But where he really gets his beef at is at level 6. Once again, going into gold, gets those thorns. So he didn't quite make my list, but he's worth thinking about and is at a very nice price. Next up, Dragon. Okay, there's not much to pick from in Dragon here as far as commons go. Most Dragon cards are, not common, rare and higher. I will note that I love Ruse. Now, this is a special edition card, and it is expensive compared to the other cards that I've been talking about. However, I will say that this is one of those cards that if you want to invest in, that at level 5, you can play him in silver. He's pretty fast, and he has sneak. But the main thing here is he picks up Martyr at level 5. Okay. Now, this is also one of the newer powers that has come along, and people are learning and have learned to use Martyr successfully. Okay, the main thing here is when he dies, if he's in the middle of two monsters, those two monsters pick up +1 to all stats. Now, if he's in front of it, say you throw him in the tank situation and throw your main tank right behind him, he's going to die pretty quickly, and then your main tank is going to move forward, and he's going to be +1 to all stats. So it's arguable, depending upon the match type, where you place him, but he's a very strong card. Not on the cheap side, though, but worth looking at, and I wanted to talk about him since we are on Dragon. As we go forward, we're going to have a few other options as far as Dragon goes in other rarities. However, you will notice that Dragon cards are usually more expensive. Okay, let's move on to Life. Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is Pellicord Conjurer. Once again, a Pellicord. No attack on this one. However, he has a number of really desirable stats. Flying, once again, minus 25% to hit. At level 4, he picks up Magic Reflect, which helps him against magic. And then he's really that way until into gold, when you can play level 7 and picks up Divine Shield. But good tank, or a good one to sit in that last spot. And once again, if you are playing, once you start playing and you get some rewards cards, play some of the newer rewards cards that give cards without an attack, then you can think about strategies of stacking them near him. Okay. The next card I want to talk about is Sunkai Harvester. This is the reach card for Life, and you will see that he starts out with reach, and he does not pick up until gold. He does not pick up press, but this is a good standard reach card because at level 5, you'll see within silver, he's at 2 attack and 3 speed. Pretty decent reach card. Like I said, these common cards we're going over, they're not flashy. They're not super special, but they are the base of your card deck. And in most of these, until you get, I would say, above gold into Diamond and Champ, you're going to usually play at least 1 or 2 commons in your hand. Okay, now, it may be possible that you throw a lot of money at the game and you play some higher end cards, but most of us, I know, I'm just going to talk for myself, most of us play, in bronze, you tend to have more commons in your hand because you're just starting out, or you are specifically playing that hand in bronze. But as you work your way up, you get rarer and rarer cards. But I will also mention that as you work your way up in rarity, generally the cards become more specific use. Okay, now there are some outliers, but generally speaking, the commons and rares are going to be the bulk of your deck, and they're going to be good in the highest amount of situations. And as you go up to epic and legendary, they become stronger, that's for sure. But in a lot of cases, they become a lot more particular on when you're going to use them. Okay, so let's move on. We've got Sunkai Harvester. We've got Blinding Reflector, also makes a good, very low mana tank. We've got Chaos Knight, which makes a good mid-low, and I wouldn't put it in a low mana match. Low mana match, I would say, is below 15 mana, but a good mid-level tank, say, between 15 and 25, somewhere there. You get above 25, then you're going to start thinking about a little bit higher mana tank. Good situation there. Chaos Knight right off the bat. If this will load. Right off the bat comes with shield, which reduces damage from melee and ranged attacks by 50%. And then at level 5, you're going to be able to sneak this in silver. Giant Killer. Does double damage against targets with cost of 10 or more mana. Now, this is also good to slot in where you think that someone is going to stack, obviously, monsters that cost 10 or more mana, or the rule set where all the mobs have the same health, and the health equals the highest health monster on either team. Good situation both ways. I know that's a mouthful, but I was just thinking out loud. And lastly, I will say Stitch Leech. Love this. As soon as it came out, I knew it was going to be a very strong card. You look at all the different bots that play, and you look at how the numbers of cards that play and the frequency. Stitch Leech is easily up there. And I can't give you an exact number, but obviously, since it's only 3 mana, it comes into low to mid mana matches, but it's, once again, a sneak card. Now, when it moves into gold, it does move up into Life Leech, but at max level 5 for silver, you have a good, strong card with sneak with 3 attack, 2 speed, and 4 health. That only costs 3 mana. Okay, that rounds it out, and these last 2 Rift Watchers cards didn't necessarily make my cut due to the price. Not that they're bad. In fact, both of these are pretty decent cards, Time Meddler and Dumaki Exile, but they're easily a lot more expensive than the other cards, which I'm going at from a value perspective. And last but not least, we have Neutral. Neutral are a lot more expensive than the other cards, but they offer a little bit higher value to me, due to the fact, and this is what I immediately thought about when I first started playing Rift Watchers, first started playing the game, is that neutrals can be played with generally any other splinter that you're going to play. However, unless you're playing the rule set that indicates no neutrals played, then you're up a creek. But they offer a good variety of higher percentage of matches you can play them in. Excuse me. But they're generally more expensive. Now, my picks for this set are going to be Gargoyle Lion, low to mid-level, cheap tank, has flying, which reduces the chance of getting hit. So this would be a good card in either the first or last slot. Chaos Agent, very strong pick. As he goes up, he gets harder and harder to hit. So when you go to level 2, he picks up dodge, minus 25% from melee and ranged attacks to hit. And when he goes into gold and makes level 6, then he has phase, which makes it harder for magic to hit him. So he's a good tank. He's good in either first or last slot, generally where I see him slotted. Because he's hard to hit, basically. Supply Runner, I like Supply Runner. Supply Runner by itself is a good, solid range card. However, when you get him to level 5, which you can slip in silver, you pick up Swiftness, which increases the speed of all your cards. And as you start to play, you'll notice that speed always helps, unless you're in reverse speed rule set. Reverse speed rule set, speed hurts. So go with your slower cards in that case. So we've got Scavo Hireling, also a good pick. This one's a strong card in melee heavy decks where you've got a lot of monsters with shields. Basically, he repairs. It's like healing, but he repairs the shield. So it's a good one to slot in there. He's also good to throw into the rule set where melee can attack from any position and then slot in a reward card that gives him melee. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so last one but not least, this is also kind of, I really like Archimus the Bear. I've liked him since he came out. He's also known as Salty Bear. This is also a special edition card and much more expensive than the others, but I felt I needed to mention him because a lot of people are playing him. Obviously at 12 mana, he really only goes into high mana matches, like generally I would consider level maybe 45 to 50 mana and up, which you're not going to see a lot of in bronze. You start seeing that in silver, and then you see it more in gold and up. But it's a strong card to consider because generally you're going to slot him into, it benefits a lot of different situations. It gives +2 armor to all your cards. And then at level 4, it picks up halving. The first time this unit hits a target, that target's attack is cut in half, rounded down. So it basically makes everything weaker. And this especially slots in well into the rule set where melee can attack from any position, okay? Because not only is he going to buff up all your cards, he is going to wear down any card that he hits, it decrease their attack. And from there, as you go up, he does get force field as well. So there is that. So with that said, I think this is the information. I know it's a lot of information, but I want to present it, and I wanted to present it for people just starting out to give you an idea of where I think you should start at. Yes, you can go rent cards, but the cards I presented today are largely very cheap and easy to acquire, and will give you a solid foundation going forward into the next modern block. Okay, so this has been Bronze Dragon. I do appreciate your time. Thanks for dropping by. Don't forget to go to the link in the show notes and sign up for that beta pack giveaway and show up at my live stream on Saturday if you can. I understand a lot of people watch the replay from other parts of the world, not on Eastern time zone. Completely understand that. In fact, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go ahead and do a secondary draw or a secondary giveaway other than the ones I did live to give everybody else a chance. With that said, have a good one. This has been Bronze Dragon. I'll see you on the flip side.